Kris Kobach is one of the most anti-immigrant politicians in America. Donald Trump's a huge fan, of course. He's from Kansas, and he apparently, like his colleague Donald Trump, does not really like to follow the rule of law. So that has gotten him in some trouble today. And let me take you to Sam Levine's reporting at HuffPost on this one. He says a Kansas federal judge ruled Wednesday that Kansas Secretary of State Kris Kobach was in contempt of court for failing to follow her order to register voters who had signed up to vote at the DMV but had failed to present proof of citizenship. Now, if you're a Secretary of State in your state, you might want to follow a judge's orders. That's pretty important. First of all, if you're anybody, I don't know if you know this, but in our country, you have to follow a judge's orders. But Republicans, they don't really care about the rule of law. They attack law enforcement like FBI. They attack judges over and over again and oftentimes don't listen to them. So that's the same case in Kansas. Well, that's gonna have consequences. So Robinson, the judge here, told Kobach to make sure those voters were fully registered. Kobach assured her that he would and that he would send out postcards to any affected voter. So what he wanted to do was bar some people from voting. And his trick for doing that was, all right, now you got to show me that you're a citizen. Now, do you carry around citizenship papers with you? Because they had passed a law that you can get registered at the DMV when you're getting your license. It makes it easier so more people can register to vote and participate in democracy. That's a good thing. Here, he wanted to make it harder. When I went to the DMV to get my license, I didn't bring my passport, I didn't bring my birth certificate, did you guys? Right? And he knows they're not gonna bring it. He's trying to make sure that they don't get the vote. The judge says you can't do that. So for all the people you already barred, you have to send them a postcard. He tells the judge when he's in court, oh sure, yeah, I'll do that, and inform them they actually can vote and straighten out the process. Did he actually do it? Of course not. So more than a year and a half later, the American Civil Liberties Union, which is representing the voters who challenged the Kansas law, filed a motion to hold Kobach in contempt, saying he had failed to send out the postcards and update the country's election manual to reflect Robinson's 2016 order. And he was held in contempt. Robinson imposed sanctions on Kobach on Wednesday, saying he had to pay the ACLU for attorney fees and that any further remedial measures would be decided when she ruled on the merits of the case. Remedial measures for Kris Kobach, that sounds really good. So looking forward to that, and I love that this right-winger has to go pay the lawyers at the ACLU. Now, let me give you more context. Robinson wrote that, quote, even if instances of non-citizens voting cause indirect voter disenfranchisement by diluting the votes of citizens, such instances pale in comparison to the number of qualified citizens who have been disenfranchised by this law. So the argument that Kobach and the Republicans were making is, well, if you have a whole bunch of people rushing into the DMV that are not citizens and they get to vote, well, that dilutes everybody else's vote, which were legitimate. Okay, that's an interesting point. So let's look at the numbers. Are they really diluting the vote? Is it a major problem? Or is the problem actually barring the legitimate voters from voting? So here's the numbers. The evidence shows only 3 instances in Kansas where non-citizens voted in a federal election between 1995 and 2013. And about 14 non-citizens attempted to register during that time. 3 in a huge span of time, about 8-9 years span of time. 3, that's it. In this one case alone, here, I'll give you these numbers. The court noted that the magnitude of harm caused by 18,372 applicants at motor vehicle offices who were denied registration. So she's saying in order to see if you might get one non-citizen who is registering to vote, and statistically speaking, it would likely be 0, especially in a pool that limited, but they wanted it to be larger. But let's say it's 1. I mean, there was only 3 from 95 to 2013. Let's say in this year, there's a rash of non-citizens trying to vote and there's 1. So in order to make sure that 1, or I'll grant you all 3, okay? The 3 are going to vote. You did not allow 18,372 legitimate citizens to not vote, to not get registered and block their ability to vote later. Well, she's like, that doesn't make any sense. You're doing the disenfranchisement. That's exactly right, guys. This story, it's fun that Kris Kobach's gonna get punished. He's a really bad guy, very against immigrants. He claims undocumented immigrants, but now the Republicans have shown their true colors. They're also against what they call chain migration. That's just families immigrating here legally. They're also against legal immigrants. But the more important point is that the Republicans don't want you to vote. They don't want people to get registered. This whole idea that, oh my God, there's this big voter fraud is a giant scam. It's to make sure that they can block as many people as possible from voting, because they think the more people that vote, the more the Democrats have an advantage. The less people who vote, the Republicans have an advantage. That's been true for decades. Paul Weyrich talked about it back in 1980. He said, I don't want people to vote. If you're a Republican, you want people to vote less. The voters that exist already are on our side, and all we're doing is losing those voters. So don't let new people register. And that is exactly what the Republicans have been doing. So if you're genuine, it doesn't matter if you're progressive or independent, even if you're a genuine conservative and you actually care about democracy, you care about our country, you care about our Constitution, you know that more people are getting the door slammed in their face who are actual citizens, and that this is not, the voter fraud is not the real issue. You can see it in the numbers. The real issue is not letting people vote. And I know that they get to do propaganda on Fox News, and that wins over some people because they don't know the reality and they don't know the numbers. But when you go into a court of law, you actually have to prove your case, and they can't. The numbers show that they are not being honest, they are disingenuous, and now the law is coming down on Kris Kobach, and that is a great day in America. You just watched a video by the Young Turks, home of the revolution. If you'd like to get a lot more than that, get the full show by becoming a member. tytnetwork.com/join.